Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're having a great learning experience so far. Please keep sharing your thoughts and let us know your key takeaways from your favorite sessions till now. Up next, we have an interesting panel discussion on the topic which has found greater value in the past couple of years and needless to say has been immensely important for not just HR leaders but business leaders too. Today, our leaders will discuss the mantra of the new age employee experience with keeping well-being at the core. Please join me in welcoming our panelist, Agustina Smara, Chief of People and Corporate Strategy at Dana India. Agustina comes with 23 years of experience and aims to establish human resources in all spectrums as part of the strategic partner to build an organization with the right startup culture and talent developments to become the employer of choice. Kulshant Singh, a seasoned HR leader with 20 years of experience in various industries and is currently the Group Chief Human Resources Officer at Thai Union. And our moderator for this panel will be Jennifer Benz, who is the Senior Vice President and Communications Leader at Siegel Benz, where she and her team helps organizations engage their people and drive business results through effective communication. Welcome, speakers. It's such a pleasure to have you on board today. But before asking Jennifer to take over the conversation, I would request our lovely audience to keep posting their questions in the chat section. So without any further ado, let me welcome Jennifer to take over. The screen is all yours, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. Delighted to be here and delighted to have a chance to moderate this session. Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Benz. I'm based in San Francisco and really looking forward to this conversation with our two panelists that we've just had a quick intro from. So I'm going to have each of them start with telling us a little bit about their organizations. And then we're going to have a nice discussion about how they've been navigating the last couple of years, building on the learnings around employee experience with a particularly focus on well-being. And hopefully we'll have a lot of good takeaways for you all to take back to your organizations. So let's start. Tina, could you please kick us off with sharing a little bit about your organization and role? And then we'll have Kulshan do the same.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer. Maybe ladies first, yeah, question. So let me get the chance first. Okay, so hi everyone. I'm in Dana. Dana is an Indonesian's payment gateway, digital payment that has been served for the transformation of digital for 4 years. I'm heading around 850 people. And 60% of the population is engineers or technology guys. And then the average age of my employee is about 26 to 27 years old. So that will be a challenge in how dealing with the millennial and everything. And then this is the interesting topic because if we are talking about the well-being, then this generation of millennials, zillennial and everything is being needed. But how the challenge right now as an HR, we balance and make the right injections of the definitions of the well-being for this generation as well.
Great, thank you. Kulshan?
Thank you, Dana. Thanks, Jennifer. Happy to be here with all of you today. My name is Kulshan Singh. I represent Thai Union. We are based out of Thailand, an organization into seafood processing and exports. We do our own brands as well. We are very different from what Dana described. We are extremely blue-collared centric organization with supply chains in Africa, Europe, and in Thailand. And we have around 45,000 employees globally. And yes, we have white-collared and mix of all the generations and ready to share the different challenges we have considering well-being of this type of population. So very happy to be here.
Great, thank you both. Kulshan, maybe we can start with you. Future-proofing organizations has been one of the key goals of people leaders, particularly since the pandemic. What have been your big learnings since navigating through the pandemic, particularly with such a large and diverse workforce?
Yes, thanks, Jennifer. I think just for the context, we were some of the businesses which got really benefited from the pandemic from a financial perspective as well. We do canned seafood, and a lot of people during the lockdowns were consuming more canned seafood and relying on our supply chain to get food on their table. So very happy to be a solution during the pandemic for many, many consumers across the world. Future proofing has been a topic even before the pandemic started for us. And specifically to what we have learned and what we continuously talk, I will try to talk about a couple of things. The first thing to us is most importantly, agility. I think what pandemic has taught us is only having very agile nature of the organization can future-proof. Everything cannot be predicted as much as we can do in the boardroom, but we couldn't have predicted a pandemic like this. So what it means is, but we could have invested more in making our workforce more agile, therefore react to the market circumstances and environment circumstances to respond best to it. So to us, I think agility is the biggest lesson, and we continue to invest in becoming more agile from a skills perspective and also attributes perspective as well. I think the second big learning in future proofing or the pandemic has taught us is about collaboration. In fact, what we were able to get through very tough 2 years of making sure there was continuity in supply chain was through cross-functional collaboration, where leaders come in to put aspects from different perspectives, and therefore we take actions and support each other. So I think that is going to become even more solid as we go along. So I will describe my last 2 years into 2 words: agility and collaboration are the key.
Great, thank you so much. Tina, how does that compare to your learnings and what you've seen at your organization?
Yeah, to give a context that in Indonesia, there's also really a huge pandemic and with a huge population, right? So being from the work from office into the work from home, that will be a very dynamic, because they have to work at home, and then at home itself, there is a lot of background of the family, right? Because I have an employee in the young age, that's why they still need to deal with the parents or the young family that they still have a baby and everything. So the challenge is for me, I notice is a tree, how the embrace change, because they need to change the style of working. They need to go with the self-time management to manage the burnout things, because now the time of working is not only 8 to 5 or 9 to 6, but they need to manage 24/7. How the morning, maybe they take care of their baby, and then they have to work at in the evening or in the afternoon. So the challenge right now, how to embrace change and make them productive from the changing from the work from office into the work from home. And then now currently after 2.5 years pandemic, how we convert into the work from anywhere. Meaning that some of the people are now looking forward for the flexibility. Even like we interview the candidate, they just checking with Dana as a startup, whether we have a HR policy for mandatory working from office or working from anywhere, because that will be one of their considerations to move or not. So that will be a challenge for me in Dana. And then in that context, so embrace change needed to inject the mindset of the employee that now it's not the same, the way you work, the way you talk, the way you work with the team. And then echoing from the Krushan talking about the collaboration, yes, that's also the second challenge in Dana, because if you work at home, yes, maybe in certain situations you are quite okay to deliver the output, but the missing part on the screen-to-screen meeting is the emotional bonding, right? So the challenge is how we do the solid team bonding, and the emotional bonding is there. My turnover quite high for the hiring period during the pandemic, because we hire, we interview, and then they just feeling lonely through all the screen to screen, right? So that would be a very fragile period, because within this 1 or 2 years length of service, that will be a huge turnover for this kind of the hiring period. And then the challenge right now is how we go with really good KPI or OKR, because if we want to accommodate the working from anywhere or flexibility, because in startup maybe different with the mass productions or the established company. In startup, actually we allow them to work from anywhere, but now it's more demand, because how we control them, quote unquote control, in terms of to make sure that they are working properly and not as a double job. That's my challenge right now. Then I do hope that with this kind of challenge, we try with all good model, and then trial and error, and then adjust policy time to time. That's for me. Back to you, Jennifer.
Yeah, thanks, Tina. Let's dig in a little bit more on that topic of maintaining productivity and measuring performance when things are so uncertain, they're so changing. We have a very dispersed workforce. Kulshan, can you talk a little bit about how you're doing that across your population that's so diverse? And then Tina, I'd love to hear a bit more about how you're really managing that productivity when people are working such different schedules.
Yes. So I'll respond to this question in two different ways. One, let's talk about our population in the factories. For them, there was no change. In fact, when we hear a lot of things about, and what Dana was describing about major issues about employees wanting to work from home, and that's the condition they want to come to work. We had none of those kind of challenges, let me tell you, because our majority workforce is factory. That is our work. So from a performance and productivity perspective, most important was keeping them focused, because when they show up to work, they are concerned about their own health, their family health, and there were a lot of those emotional support programs which we those days had to make sure that they continue to stay focused and productive. Nothing much. We do that business as usual as well, but we were on a heightened alert to make sure that we are sensitive to their needs, because somebody at home in other country, because a lot of this population is migrant population, could be sick as well. So we were very, very sensitive and conscious to that, and a lot of support was provided. When it comes to white-collared workforce, our office population, which is there to support and sell what we produce in our factories. Yes, I think I will share my major insight, in fact, rather than sharing how we manage it. My big insight is that pandemic taught us that there is end to, or beginning to the end of supervision, the concept of supervision. Managers who thought their key job is to supervise were totally left workless, because they couldn't supervise anybody in person, and it was almost impossible to supervise people on screens. So I think it's entirely shifted the concept what the role of the manager was. And it was not to control, it was not to supervise and find problems and find faults, but it was to empower, it is to trust and remove obstacles from their way. So what we learned in the units where productivity and performance was very high, it is where the managers quickly assume the role of coaches to remove obstacles along the way, continuously being in touch with them and trust and empower them. And where the performance and productivity dropped is where the supervisors could not elevate themselves to those managers and leaders who did not know anything else but to supervise. So I think this is a great insight. And therefore, how we addressed that was investing much more in so-called managerial and leadership trainings to tell them what it is being manager in this new world. You cannot control, you cannot instruct, you cannot supervise. So you better trust, you empower, and you coach. I think that shift accelerated. And I think a number of years I've been in HR, we've talked about that shift, which we call manage less, lead more. I think pandemic totally accelerated that and exposed that as a need of the hour. So that's how we dabble with it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And we've certainly seen that with the organizations we work with, that the role of the managers has really been elevated, and it's so key to navigating through so much uncertainty. Tina, can you share a little bit more about how you've been thinking about productivity and performance, and what your managers have been doing to rise to this moment.
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer. So talking about the productivity and performance in Dana as a startup, we divide it into two. That will be a hard KPI that is very tactical, right? They deliver total sales, merchant, and then the coding one. So especially in the engineers part area, that we use some tools because they do the coding line, right? So every day they can submit that one, so we can track that one. But the more challenging for the non-technology one, where we can just do the coaching for one-on-one session. So we apply, we talk and call it as an agile leadership mood, which is because now we are going into the hybrid working style, meaning that because it's already, we have a vaccine and everything, right? So we encourage them to come in the certain days to the office, but they can allow to also working from home. And from there, we ask the line managers to make sure that there is one day that they can coordinate and asking the team to have a face-to-face meeting. And some of the other situations, we ask them to have a check-in and check-out point just to do the one-on-one coaching through the online sessions. Because agree with Kushan that we need to empower people and trust, where in Dana we have 7 corporate values, and one of the things is talking about the integrity and the professional ethic. So we encourage them into the agile leadership things. So there will be a one-on-one coaching for both sides, face-to-face and online. So at the time, HRBP or people partner always tracking and then asking the line manager whether they already meet the team minimal once in a month. And the challenge will be, I'll divide it into the tactical and then the non-tactical one. Non-tactical because talking about the productivity and performance is not only about the working and then you deliver the output, but how the bonding itself, right? So we make sure that the well-being is there, talking about the engagement. So there will be a team building sessions where they have a division town hall, they can have a lunch together to meet with the team, not every day, but once in a while, according to the structure of the programs itself. So we have an engagement team to support and make sure that even they come to the office, that will be very effective to meet the managers and then also engagement with the team bonding. That's from me. Back to you, Jennifer.
Great, thank you. Well, you both touched on it a bit, but let's dig into really our main topic, which is well-being and how that is fitting into your organizations right now and how it's changed in the last few years. So there's been such a big focus on well-being in the last several years. I think this is one of the most exciting aspects of what's going on in HR right now. And this has been building on the momentum that was started by the pandemic and then just really accelerated by all of the needs that Kulshan explained and that we've seen around, of course, physical health, just can you prevent yourself from getting sick, to the mental and emotional side of dealing with the pandemic and all of the stress in everyday life, as well as the financial aspects of it when so many people have had changes in their jobs and their family situations. So I'd love to hear from both of you a little bit about how you're thinking about well-being in your organizations and what are some of the best practices that you've been creating. Kulshan, do you want to start with
Yes,
that?
sure. So well-being in Thai Union, in fact, was extremely important because we have a big contingent of blue-collar workforce. And you'd be surprised at how basic their needs of well-being are. And it continues to be the same, which is financial health, first of all, because they not only support themselves, they support several families back home when they're a migrant workforce. And also when they are in a different country, how the healthcare facilities will be available, whether vaccination will be available or not. So first of all, our focus was on that. And very proud to say that we never had even a single layoff. In fact, all through the pandemic, we were suffering from not enough workforce to produce what we wanted to produce. So, and we wanted to also make sure that they feel financially safe, not only for today, for tomorrow. So we had a number of programs which were around skill building, which will tell them that they are safe in future as well. So that was one aspect. The second aspect, which was definitely the emotional aspect, was around their families. They separated from them for a number of years. In fact, some of them are still separated and have not been able to go home and check out their families. So what we could do is we had a number of programs so that we can make them stay connected with their families. We also had program with the embassies to make sure that their passports are renewed here and they don't have to worry about passports expiring during those times when they are here and not unable to travel. So for us, well-being was all about taking care of their very, very basic needs around financial security, around health, and very basic emotional needs. And lastly, I would like to highlight, which we as an organization, we were very proud of. In fact, we used to motivate them across the last 2 years, telling them that how their work contributes, bringing food on table for a number of people who are in lockdown and not able to go out and eat. In fact, our food was, we do proteins, we do tuna-based proteins, and it's the best form of protein at the moment and very, very affordable. So we used to motivate them with the sense of purpose they had, and that we found was very refreshing, which we had not done in the past. And during the pandemic, we make use of that as well. And they realized how their work add values to the world. And they suddenly have this pride and purpose, which we only talk about in white collar jobs and all those knowledge workers. And very happy that we could evoke that in our blue collared workforce as well. So that's the concept of well-being on a blue collared side. On the white collared, of course, we continue to do all the stuff which many organizations are doing. We were very considerate to individual needs. We were very considerate. We have all the programs around mental health and awareness. We have programs around financial stability. We have financial consultants coming in and talking to them on importance of saving and expense control and things like those. But the highlight of our work was around how did we evoke a sense of purpose with our blue collar workforce and kept them going through the pandemic.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's such an important point, and I think you're absolutely right. That sense of purpose and the pride in work that matters, no matter what role you're in, no matter what industry. And there's just an incredible research out there about the value of having that connection to an organization's purpose and how that can really help people navigate through even the toughest of times, which we've certainly experienced the last couple of years. So that's fantastic. One question, diving a little bit deeper with you, you talked about how the role of managers changed, moving from that supervisor to leader. How did you get managers engaged in the well-being and the purpose topics with all of your workforce?
Again, by having, first of all, awareness around this topic, I think that was extremtre important. You would imagine that I think a lot of talk around when the work suddenly became from an 8-hour, 9-hour job to 14-hour, 15 hours on screen. And we were also guilty of that. We had to do a lot of talking. We had to do a lot of engagement in the beginning. I think the first 2-3 months were a chaos. People trying to find ways how to work with technology. And we are a very basic organization, putting fish into a can, think about that, and very manual workforce. So we struggled for the first 2-3 months. And after we, in fact, navigated that period of engaging our managers, spending a lot of time on these topics, one thing we take pride is in execution. This organization is extremely execution focused. Once we hang on to a concept, we take it to the last point and not leave it in between. So not much of a challenge, to be honest, after the first 3 months, but the mantra was talking and engaging the managers, the purpose, the concept, and filling them with the pride that we are in it together. And I can tell you, the good news was the business was doing very well. In fact, if in a business which does well, you can solve all these problems. That's my fundamental belief. And I think we were fortunate with that. So good business, we were giving them their share of success back to them. Happy bonuses and things like those and all that stuff. And they were engaged through it.
Great. Thanks so much. Tina, how does that compare with your experience, and how have you been thinking about all of the different aspects of well-being in your workforce?
Yeah. So in my context will be because I'm managing the young people, almost 70% of my population is 24 years old up to the 30 years old. So we make 4 pillars in implementing well-being during this pandemic for the last year that I divided into 4. Is talking about the physical well-being, because these young people we need to inject that the well-being is not only the happiness of the fun things, drink and food, but also the physical one. So they have to manage their body in a good way. We have like a Dana cleanse. Dana cleanse is how we encourage every single of the our employee with the common interest, because to engage with 850 people is quite difficult. So I'll have a concept in terms of everyone have their common interest. So we make a Dana clan. If they have a common interest in terms of the basketball, soccer, running, or gym, or Muay Thai, or CrossFit, and then also the music, so they can have register in their group. And then with that one, that can be emotional bonding and the cross-division engagement, because they can know each other, right? Before that, they only have a Zoom to Zoom meeting. And from that one, we encourage them to do the exercise with the physical well-being is there. We also have a Dana healthy food programs. There is a health talk and everything to encourage them that you are at home, or you can eating outside or from your home, but you have to maintain your stamina in a good way, because it's talking about the endemic or pandemic. But if your body is good, then that will be also a good one. That's the one pillar of the physical well-being. And then the psychological well-being, as we said earlier about the mental health, is also important. And feeling lonely with certain on and limit interactions, that can be a very disaster for some people. That's why we have a Dana sessions that they can have a counseling sessions. I hire professional counselor so they can have their counseling moment with them. And then for them, we disclaimer that this is the confidential one, and their personal things won't be disclosed at all. So they can like talking freely with this professional counselor, because sometimes we don't know, right? They don't have any problems in the office. Maybe they have a problem in the parenting, with their spouse, or maybe with their boyfriend or girlfriends, because this is young people, right? And then in this generation, they are quite fragile in terms of the conflict, and then maintain their maturity and emotional. So the amazing that our counseling session is quite full. 95% of the session is full for the registrations. So that will be really a good insight for us about this one. And then we have a Dana Care. Dana Care talking about the psychological well-being, that if they sick or have a wedding, we send some hampers as a part of the good gesture from the company. Then the third part is talking about the financial well-being. So last year I announced talking about the well-being allowance, because when we work at office, maybe there's no problems in terms of the internet, the electricity, but when they are coming back to the home, the electricity and the internet will be different in different area, different district. There will be a Wi-Fi stronger signal there, and then the other one is very weakness, right? So we give the communications allowance and also the well-being allowance as part of they have to maintain their physical well-being as well. So I don't care. That money will be used for buying the healthy food, or they want to do the gym membership or whatever. But with the concept of the well-being, they know that the company care with them and giving some of the fund for them as well. And maybe the unique one in the fourth pillar is talking about the social well-being. because we observe and do the research that these young people feeling entitled, feeling want to be involved, feeling want to be achieve something. So the social well-being would be very needed for them to get the interactions with outsider beside that office. So we have like a Dana family, that we invite their parents, their family coming to the office, so they know what kind of job, what kind of the type of Dana as a startup. So they are, the parents doesn't call the kids or the employee because why don't you coming home, because now it's a pandemic, you cannot come to the office or whatever. So we make sure that our office is secured and a very healthy protocoler on make sure that everything is okay. And then we believe in terms of the woman empowerment. So we also have like a woman activities and everything. And one more important thing is we have a Bicara Dana. Bicara Dana is like becoming a speaker outside in organization, that we inject the philosophy that they need to be smart, but not as a smart for their own. So they need to spread the good things to the anybody else and for the crowd as well. So they teach to anyone, they teach to the market, they visit to the market, so they also know about the product itself, whether it's quite friendly for the mother or for the one who's maybe not in the well-educated one, but whether our product is okay in the market or not. So the social well-being is also one of the good pillar for these young people, because after they go outside, they make some impact, and then when they coming back, their happiness will be totally different, and sometimes the gratitude is there as well.
Mhm.
That's from me.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And that definitely connects to that concept of purpose and fulfillment at work, which is really strong. And Tina, can you share a little bit more about how your managers are included in the well-being topics and conversation? This is one of the things that's been most interesting in the clients we work with, is how much companies are getting managers involved with talking about well-being and really helping people get connected to resources.
Yeah, from the manager side, we call that group as a transformer, because we say that in this era that you need to transforming yourself and transforming your team to be a better person. And for that one, we have like a division town hall, or because we asking them to also feeling good, and then how to cascade down the communication is also another challenge, right? Of course, the communication can be go through email or chat, but again, the face-to-face one is also important. And then for the well-being on the manager's side is talking about how they also feel good as a human being when they are in the lowest point. So we have like a group of the transformer member. Every month we collaborate together, come to the office, and then we make a small group to share each other what is your challenge. And the other part is we have like a executive chat, like a CEO chat, that we invite some of the people, like 7 people or 10 people, talking and meet up with the CEO or the executive member to make sure that if they have a conflict or maybe they have a gray area to confirm about the business direction and everything, they can talk there. Including like if they are not feeling happy with this kind of condition, or restructure or burnout and everything. That's from
fantastic.
Jennifer.
Great, thank you. Well, for our last question, I am curious, what kind of advice and tips do you have to share with other HR leaders who are creating their own goals and strategies for their organizations and really trying to meet this moment of navigating through so much uncertainty and taking care of their people? Kulshan, do you want to start with that?
Yes. Okay. Let me kick off with something which we are trying to do here in this organization as well. I believe there is an immense opportunity to transform the entire nature of work itself. And this piece of work, transforming work, is still hanging out there with no natural owner in organization at the moment. Sometimes it is seen as functional responsibility, sometimes it is seen as business's responsibility. But I think the biggest opportunity for HR community is to make sure that they work with the businesses to transform the work itself to be more meaningful, to make sure they deconstruct all the old ideas of how work has been performed and reconstruct using all the ideas available around AI, machine learning, outsourcing, whatnot. I think that is the area which my advice to the HR community will be, that this is what will get us seat on the table. This will make the businesses take us very seriously, because this is the need of the hour, and will add not only bottom line value, but also impact the sustainability and well-being agenda of the workforce. So that's my tip to the HR community. Let's get on to this. Let us develop our own skills to help businesses transform work, because that is where all the transformation is starting. And secondly, I think I always recommend this pre or post pandemic is our job get easier if we build managerial capability to do all the conversations which are required to be done with their employees, whether it's a conversation around pay, or it's a career, or it's a pure engagement conversation, or be it giving them tough love or tough feedback sometimes. I think if the managers, mid-managers especially, and the frontline managers, if they can do those conversations rightly, HR job would be much, much easier and smooth. And it is a painful thing to do it, but it's the right investment. HR people should be able to do it. I think that's where my advice would rest.
Both of those are great. And Tina, what about you?
Yeah, I think takeaway, and then talking to all the HR in this world, that thank you so much that we are doing really a tough job as a human being to take care of another human being, right? Because we also as a human being feeling lonely or feeling tired, right? But I think we need to clap our hands for ourselves, that HR in this era is playing a very important role. For me, I think one key point is I'm talking about to all the HR community is the embrace change, because in this era that the environment changes, meaning that the people behavior is also changed and the technology is also changed. And talking about the people behavior, of course, our employees also changed with the different demand, different behavior, and how the HR itself embrace the change to also making sure that we have an open mind and changing our policy time to time. Because I think in certain era or like in Indonesia context, that when we change the policy, we need to check the regulation as well, right? But in certain gray area, whether we can change time to time with the flexibility to adjust with our employee needs. Because now the custom to serve the employee is needed. It's not only like only mandatory policy, the annual leave is plus, but how the flexibility in terms of the benefit, compensation, and we accommodate some of the case by case basis, like they want to work in the certain city for certain situations in the certain period, whether we allow them or not. We cannot stick only that this is the policy and I'm sorry, I cannot accommodate everything. So I think that's from me, because we cannot really only stick with one policy, but we need to check case by case basis, because right now the ambiguity is there, and then everyone have their own cases and needs for the company.
Wonderful advice from both of you, and I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for sharing so much. You both have truly interesting and insightful thoughts to share, clearly doing some really fantastic things at your organizations that we all can learn from. And I've really enjoyed everything that you've shared. So thank you so much, and thank you to the conference for having us.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Gulshan.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so
It
much.
was
Thank you
pleasure.
so much, speakers. Kulshan, Tina, those were really great insights. I think I can totally agree with the flexibility part that it's not just about maybe giving your employees those couple of aspects that, okay, this is something that our organization can do for you, but also understanding their mindsets and how they can be one of those great supporters and grow together with the organization. So thank you so much once again. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this session, but I would request you all to stay tuned for our next session. See you on the other side.